you never know with the Mets.
We're talking to Sports Illustrated writer Jon Heyman. And John, two more questions right before we let you go. Two Hall of Fame questions, that is. Pete Rose, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's banned from baseball. Personally, I believe the all-time hits leader should be in the Hall of Fame. What he did was wrong as a manager, and people have been put in as managers. Therefore, Pete Rose should be put in as a player. What's your opinions on Pete Rose Hall of Fame eligibility?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's time now to let him into the Hall of Fame, or at least vote on him as a Hall of Famer. And if he gets voted in, that'd be fine. If he's on the ballot, I believe I would vote for him. I would certainly weigh it more seriously than I am now, since I don't have to vote on it. But I would say that it's time. I mean, I think what he did was pretty terrible, considering he lied about it for 20 years until he wrote a book for profit, although I don't know how many books he sold. But it's clearly marked. You're not allowed to bet on baseball, and everybody understands that. He made a bad mistake, but it's been more than 20 years now, and as you said, as a player, there's no evidence that he did that, and I would say that he should be in the Hall of Fame as a player.
And then one more thing here with the Hall of Fame. The big debate right now is steroids versus non-steroids. Should they put them in? Should they not put them in? What should happen here with guys like Rafael Palmeiro, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, who's eligible right now, Barry Bonds down the road? Isn't it just odd? Obviously, what these guys did were terrible, but how can someone not put Barry Bonds in as he's the all-time home run king?
Yeah, I take it on a case-by-case basis. Everything is a judgment here. We judge whether the player's good enough. We judge how much the steroids affected their careers. At least I do. I know there's some people that just take a hard and fast and say steroids were not the right thing to do, and we understand it was not the right thing to do, even if it wasn't. Even if nobody was caught at the time, because no one admitted it. So we understood that it wasn't the right thing to do. But I'm not going to be a moralist and say they're all out. I'm not voting for any of them. I'm going to take them all on a case-by-case basis and make the judgment, my judgment, as to whether the steroids are what put them over the top, what made them have a Hall of Fame career in terms of statistics, achievement, what have you. I have not voted for Mark McGwire because I think the steroids put him over the top. I think without any steroids, he does have the credentials. He had some great achievements. He helped bring the game back in 1998 with the home run chase. But I do think that he wouldn't be hitting 70 home runs in his mid-30s without steroids. So I don't think without the steroids that he would have been a Hall of Famer. So I don't vote for him. Rafael Palmeiro, I think the steroids, in my judgment, aided his career enough that I'm not going to vote for him. I think the episode 2 is embarrassing in front of Congress, where he lied, said he never did steroids, and then he failed the test a matter of weeks later. So, in my judgment, he lied. Now, is it possible he was telling the truth at that moment, and then a week later decided to take steroids? I mean, I guess that's possible, but to me, that's so outrageous that I have a hard time voting for him. Beyond that, I think his career was, based on his numbers, probably would put him in the Hall of Fame if he wasn't associated with steroids. But I'm going to judge that the steroids have put him over the top. Bonds, Clemens, A-Rod, guys like that, I am not going to be a moralist, and I'm probably going to vote for them because, as I see it, they were Hall of Famers before they ever associated themselves with steroids. But I understand the people who say steroids are completely wrong, it's cheating the game, it's cheating other players. I'm not voting for them. And so, if someone does that, I don't blame them. It's a tough choice. But to me, the Hall of Fame is about the best players in the game. This obviously was very prevalent in the game, unfortunately. It wasn't like it was one or two guys, as we see. Many of the MVPs over a decade or more have already been associated with steroids. So I'm not going to be a moralist and say they're all out. I'm going to take it case by case, and I probably will vote for Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez and some other guy, Roger Clemens. Manny Ramirez will be a more interesting one for me because he failed tests twice, and that's a little more outrageous. But I will consider it when his time comes.
What about a guy like Andy Pettitte? He didn't deny that he took steroids. He told you why he took them from the period that he did. I know Pettitte doesn't have those glamorous numbers, but he did have a lot of success in the postseason. Does Pettitte get him when he becomes eligible?
I don't think he's going to get in, and I was kind of an espouser of him being a Hall of Famer or being en route to the Hall of Fame, but, he's taking a break from the game now, and assuming he doesn't come back, I think his numbers combined with the fact that he was found to have taken HGH and was admitted taking the HGH, well, that, in my mind, doesn't rise to the level of steroids. It really was not allowed, and he had denied it for a long time, so he knew it wasn't a good thing. And then he admitted it once George Mitchell, baseball-appointed drug czar, did his investigation. And, I think, his career is borderline to begin with, and I think enough people will say, borderline career or maybe not quite good enough. And then you have this other issue I'm probably not voting for him. It takes 75% of the vote, so with everything factored in, I think it's going to be difficult for him. I'm going to think a little hard about it, though. I do think his postseason career was really spectacular, and it's something to clearly consider. I don't think there was no other pitcher. In fact, I know there was no other pitcher who pitched at least 16 games and never had a losing record, at least 16 years, and never had a losing record. So he had a terrific record of efficiency and very, very good pitching. He wasn't a number one. There's a lot of things to consider. Ultimately, I think it's going to be difficult for him to make it. It's possible I might vote for him. I'd weigh the postseason very heavily, but I just don't think he'll make it.
Jon, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Zach.